Oftentimes in our life, what is it that drives us to make our decisions? Normally, it is a desire, something that we want to accomplish that will help us feel a certain way about ourselves. Now, what we do to get that desired outcome is solely based off of the information that we currently have. And normally, our ambitions are very high when we're children. They're very high when we're in our adolescence, moving on into our teenage years, when all of a sudden, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, our hormones kick in. And that drive, that testosterone level, that ambitious feeling that you just have to accomplish the goal happens. Then you start doing things that you probably wouldn't do at this day and age. So how do we utilize that? How do we pull that back in to help us accomplish what it is that we want? Probably right now, you're going through the same actions, through the same scenarios over and over again, being pissed miserable. How do you find that passion, that desire, that will to do whatever it takes like it did when you were young? Sometimes you just have to suffer. And sometimes you just have to get to that point where you've suffered so much that you have to make a change or you're going to end. And in reality, it's scary because what ends is that old identity. And you get the opportunity to become free. Now, can you fight through the fear? Can you do what it takes to become the person that you dreamed of? Roll that intro. I want to thank you for joining us at the Man Up and Own It show, where we deal with situations and help men by dealing with those situations by giving them the stories of other men. Today, I want to welcome you to my friend, Jesse Simpson. How are you?
What's going on? I'm feeling good. Glad to be here with you, Christopher.
I'm glad to have you here. Crazy enough that we met through another friend that I met on this podcast. Introduced us at a men's pickleball gathering.
That's right. They have another one coming up on this Saturday too, actually.
I'm excited.
Here we go.
And by the time this episode launches, that event will have ended and we will have made another cool-ass experience together.
I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Now, have you ever played pickleball before?
I was a firefighter and we played pickleball. It was actually when I got on the department. They had outlawed soccer and ultimate frisbee because too many people were tearing their ACLs and being taken off the truck because of that.
Oh, really?
So right when I came on, they just approved officially, the city of Mesa approved pickleball as a city approved sport. Mm-hmm. So we played pickleball. So yes, I have.
So you were well weathered in the smacking of the wiffle ball.
I don't know if I could say that, but I used to play.
He's so modest, like he's gonna say I'm good. All right. Yeah, no. So that's the first time I had ever seen a house with a pickleball in the backyard.
That was pretty epic.
Dude, so where are you from?
I grew up in Iowa. So
you're another Midwest boy. So I'm from Kansas. We're at in Iowa.
I grew up in Des Moines, went to high school in Cedar Rapids.
Okay. So you're from a big city there.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I have family in Fort Dodge and Boone.
Okay.
My dad's from Fort Dodge. So it's kind of cool to meet another like Midwest. How old were you when you moved here?
How old was I? I was in 2013. So
okay.
Whatever, 11. I would have been like 24 maybe.
Okay. Dude, so big change, right? What brought you to Phoenix?
Well, I never felt like Iowa was like my home. I think I got some good values from there, but I always had like a bigger picture for my life.
Right.
But I graduated early from high school and joined the Marine Corps and moved out to California.
Okay.
And then 4 years later, fast forward, when it was time to get out, I was thinking about how much I miss my family and friends. So I moved back to Iowa. And then about 2 weeks later, I'm like, why the hell did I move back to Iowa?
Dude, was that the most depressing thing when you went back home and you saw everybody doing the same thing that they were doing when you left?
Yep, that's exactly what it was. So ultimately, I went to a couple years of community college just trying to figure it out, but I had California on my mind or Arizona, and I was just interested in going to ASU. I got my exercise and wellness degree from there.
Okay.
So that inspired, part of the thing brought me down there. I had my partner at the time, she also had a sister. There's just a number of synchronicities. We're like, let's just give it a shot and move out to Arizona. So just moved on down 2013.
All right. So what did you think from the first summer of here?
I more think about it as the winters in Iowa. I don't really care how hot the summers get because I can chill by the pool or sit in the AC. And I like to sweat. I used to like ride my bike or go for a run in the middle of the summer just to like sweat.
Okay.
So I enjoyed it. Now, if the air conditioning was out or thinking back in Afghanistan, like it's hot. It's like summers in Arizona without AC. You're just sitting there sweating all day. So we're very blessed to have the AC. If the power goes out, it'll be a different story, but I don't mind it.
Dude, you bring up a very valid point. If the power goes out, and honestly, that is one small faucet of the giant diamond that's about to crack if the power goes off. Like, people don't understand, right, that if the power goes off, the water stops running, and the fridge doesn't stay cold anymore, and the gas doesn't pump in the cars anymore.
Yeah.
And how fragile our system probably really is, right? First, I'd really like to tell you thank you for your service. You did something that the majority of us, including myself, didn't go do. So thank you. I would have supposed that being in a different environment from here, even in Iowa, helped shape your broader perspective of the world, right?
My time in the military?
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. It really shifted my perspective on a lot of things. It helped me step up into leadership and travel the world with my best friends and really be put into very intense situations at a young age, which, of course, colored a lot of my adulthood.
Right. Those experiences definitely shifted how you interact in normal society, right? What's one of the biggest challenges that you have faced after coming out of the military that you experienced?
That's a great question. I think the biggest challenges for me specifically, and I think a good number of veterans that are coming out of the military, there's three things. It's a loss of the structure. You're told what to do, where to be. There's a lot of hurry up and wait. There's a lot of doing things for no reason, but there's also clear and definite structure. Yep. And that's one thing. The clear sense of purpose. You have a common mission. You know what you're doing and why, and you're working towards that together, which leads into the third, which is the brotherhood.
Yes.
And those are the big three for me that I experience. I've been out since 2011, so it's been 13 years. I've went through a big process since then. I've rebuilt myself, a lot over the time.
What was the first thing you did to rebuild yourself?
The thing that really, the first thing was getting into yoga. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yoga?
Yeah.
Normally you'd hear like, I got lifting weights or I did CrossFit, but yoga.
Well, I mean, I was already working out. I was working out very intensely.
Understand.
And just to go back to the last question, the thing that's still carrying along with me is the intensity. I've been forced to slow down in my life, and I've been used to a very high threshold of stress, and I've kept that through my professional career as a Marine, as a firefighter, and then in entrepreneurship and traveling, and a lot of the things I've done, I've kept a very high threshold, which has led to essentially adrenal burnout and fatigue and these sort of things that I've been navigating since then. So that's the thing that lingers. But I was already working out. I had that pretty locked in. The thing that yoga brought to me was just awareness around my body, and my thoughts that were racing and taking me to all these crazy places was the first thing that allowed me to slow down and have some sort of sense of connection and awareness around myself.
Dude, I like how you bring up slowing down and being able to, I would assume, probably think through the situation a little bit more effectively. Do you feel that the skills that you learned in the military and how to think through a problem really fast under high intensity, now combined with that ability to slow down, is making you or giving you a new edge on problems or situations that pop up?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I haven't really thought about it too much until you asked it, but it makes a lot of sense. Just given the intensity of the situation and being in it and being in highly stressful environments, that's one thing. But being able to manage that effectively and efficiently is another thing. Mm-hmm. And so having that intensity and kind of being pushed in and being able to meet that and understand what that's like is a great foundation from which then awareness and self-reflection and slowing down to plan out more strategically comes into greater effect.
Absolutely. So I know something about you that some people may not know, that you bring up being a firefighter, and that's a glorious job. It's also a very stressful job. You've probably saw some things that most people don't realize that you see. You're a first responder, correct?
Yeah.
So as a first responder, what are the type of situations that you would find yourself in?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So I was a firefighter here in Mesa for about 4 years. I left in 2018, but in that time, there's this idea that I had of what it would be like, and it wasn't like that. And what I thought I would be doing was more directly going on calls, fires.
Yeah, like putting out fires, like you see in the TV and stuff, right?
Exactly.
It's interesting how the media tells us a story of what it is, and then once you do it, you find out, oh, there's so much more. So go on, please.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So fires, at the time I was in, let's say 2016, fires were 3% of the calls. 3%. So everyone in Arizona, if you're a firefighter, and pretty much across the board now, you're also EMT or a paramedic. So you're going on these medical calls. So they would say that 80% of our calls were medical. And my experience is the vast majority of those were mental health in nature. So we're going on people, drunks, addicts in the streets, suicides and overdoses in people's homes. So we are helping people to some extent. But I had this really gnawing feeling that there had to be a better way. When we're going on repeat customers, heroin overdoses 1 week, and then the next week we're back, they send them to the hospital, they're back on the streets, feeding for more drugs.
Yep.
And around the same time in 2016, I had a really big awakening. My best friend from the Marines died of a heroin overdose. And it really just made it more personal for me. Yep. And yeah, that was my experience. I went on a few fires for sure. I went on some pretty gnarly MVAs, motor vehicle accidents. Went on probably a few dozen, I would think 50 or so codes with old people, going down, doing compressions and that kind of stuff. A lot of diabetics, but then again, a lot of mental health stuff that's really rampant in our society. And the first responders are the first ones to address that.
Wow. Well, thank you. And I'm sorry for your loss with your friend. I wish there could have been somebody there that could have spoke or said something in a way that made him think about things differently, where he didn't want to do what he did.
Yeah.
A little moment for him. What I also hear from you is that people are suffering internally. Their mental status right now is so desperate, so in panic, right? That now they're willing to do certain things that they know that are harmful, even up to right? But drugs, we know that's bad for us. We know it's harming us. That people are willing to do this because they don't love themselves that much. You actually got to a breaking point with the fire department, right?
Yeah.
Tell me what led up to that and what you did to stop your suffering.
Yeah. And the first thing I'll say with that is one of the other things that I did that led to me to being on this journey was I started to volunteer.
Okay.
That was something that really had a big impact on me. And in 2013, a couple of years after I had separated from the Marines, I went on a volunteer trip to Lima, Peru, and worked at this orphanage with these kids who had sticks and balls and dirt, but the biggest smiles I'd ever seen. And I went down there thinking, I couldn't wait to help these kids. I was a combat Marine, bringing my American privilege or whatever I thought I was bringing. And it was clear after these 2 weeks that they had changed me. They had helped me. And that really stayed with me. And I continued that on coming down to Arizona. I did a lot of volunteering in the community as a mentor at the Phoenix Children's Hospital and that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So I kept that going and joined the fire department 2014. And my best friend in 2016 had died.
Yeah.
And I that really kindled this desire to create something that would be more impactful for people once I felt like I wasn't really making an impact on the front lines like I thought I would as a firefighter.
Okay.
And ultimately that created a nonprofit. I started in the community. I was basically pairing up veterans with troubled youth in the community as a mentorship component.
Interesting.
To give the veterans that sense of purpose that is missing when we separate from the military, and the troubled youth, as I was, that direction, that leader, someone who's been through something that can support them on their journey. So I was like, man, this is it. This is my life path. This is my journey. So I started this nonprofit and really built this thing up. I got some notoriety in the company or in the city. Was on the newspaper and a few different podcasts.
All right.
Some different things. Here we go. Let's go. And
all right.
Feeling proud of my past self right now. But all that culminated in me being recognized as Arizona State Firefighter of the Year in 2017.
All right.
And
so you built yourself up. You used your adversity to give back. And I think more men should do something like that in their life. Find something that's hurting them and heal it with giving back and creating an actual opportunity for change. So thank you for everything you did there, and you deserve the rewards and stuff you got. So have that moment, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
And the idea, right, is to find a way to replicate it.
Yep.
All right, so now you just got this award in 2017. What happens?
Well, I had been burning both ends of the stick, working at one of the busiest ladder trucks in the country. Ladder 201 down the street was the 16th busiest ladder truck in the country. You know, the hardest part of the fire department for me is the sleep deprivation.
Right.
When I go on traumatic calls, for sure, you kind of just numb out to that, or you just get used to it. And, you know, you can work through that with your crew. And the city does really provide some good resources. But when you're getting up 5-6 times a night, it becomes very challenging. So for me, what I was doing was popping Ritalin I was prescribed, but I was popping Ritalin to keep me going throughout the day. I would smoke weed at night to kind of bring me down. And I'm on purpose, I'm doing my thing, but I'm doing two things that are very intense and taking a lot of energy. And essentially it was burning me out. So the Firefighter of the Year in September 2017 was like the pinnacle. But October of 2017, a lot of things were catching up with me. So, I mean, my childhood trauma, my Marine Corps trauma, the experience on the job, the sleep deprivation, all these things were really catching up with me. My brother was dying of cancer. My mom lost her job. There's just life was stacking up.
Oh, man. So you had the pressure put on you. Every direction you turned, something was not going good.
Yeah. Yeah, I really felt like that. It felt like it was a big awakening for me. And
especially right after a big win too, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge, pulled the rug out from underneath you.
Yeah, for sure. It was just a perfect build up to what would be the death of that part of my life and the rebirth into something new. And really the last straw for me on that, Christopher, was that shooting in Las Vegas, Nevada in October 2017. It was a country music concert. The guy sprayed a machine gun, right?
From above, right?
Yep. I was a machine gunner in the Marines, and I shot machine guns at other people. And the reason I did that, or at least I thought, was to prevent that from happening here. So as I mentioned, my bit of frustration was just kind of how the system's working. I learned about the military-industrial complex. Now I'm just a cog in the machine of this medical establishment. We're not really helping people. We're just putting Band-Aids on serious problems.
Yes, sir.
And then, then people are just getting sprayed at a country music concert. And it's really set me into a deep depression and eventually pulled the brakes on that nonprofit, which set me down even deeper. And, there I was the Firefighter of the Year smoking weed at work and just having suicidal thoughts.
Yep.
And ultimately, what I realized is that I was having the same suicidal thoughts as a 28-year-old man as I did when I was in 7th grade.
Interesting.
And the summer before 7th, I had a pretty troubled youth, and I won't go too deep into it because I want to keep focused on the future. But basically, what saved my life, I was suicidal the summer before 7th grade. And then 7th grade happened, September of 2001, 9/11 happened. And 9/11 was what made me want to become a Marine and a firefighter. It really saved my life. It gave me a sense of purpose and direction to serve that was larger than myself.
Absolutely.
And so I did those things. And now I was coming to a point where I was just sick of looking forward to a life, or a retirement.
Yes.
And I was sick of the culture, and I was just ready for something more. So what was resonating still within me was that experience in Peru. And that most authentic experience of my life just was so vivid. And what I decided was that it was time to go. And I just made the commitment. My partner, my girlfriend at the time, and I were talking about Costa Rica. She had a friend that moved to Costa Rica. And we're like talking about it. And when I talk about something, I don't like talking about ideas unless there's the intention of acting upon them. For the most part. Like I'm totally open, but when it's talking about like where I was, I'm not here just to talk.
I don't have time to sit around and talk. Like, it's go time.
Yep. Absolutely. So that's what it felt like. But I decided December, the new year, going in 2018, talking with a couple of firefighters around the table, I'm moving to Costa Rica. And that
what was the look on their face? Can you go back to that moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. Looking back, I think they were like, "Oh, all right."
Was it like a look of maybe like disbelief?
I think there's definitely that, because very few people leave the fire service once they get in, and there's also a lot of people don't think it can be done. I think, and whether it's a firefighter or a corporate job or anything, you know, you're in or Iowa or Kansas, you know, it's like when you're ready to take that leap, most people's minds can't. It's
over.
Yeah.
Their brains just like shut down because it's too scary.
Yeah.
It's like this podcast, or you've been to the dinners.
Yeah.
Like that. Like the first one, that was kind of scary. And even though it was only 12 people, the reservation was messed up, and like I didn't know if it was going to happen. And my lovely wife, as you've met, I called her, she took care of it. And I was like, shit. Now we got to do this. And we did it. And it was amazing. And then the second one happened. And that's where you got the first opportunity.
Yeah.
But it was scary. And when I tell people I wanted to do it, the disbelief, the look of just like, why would you even try?
Yeah.
So now you're about ready to go to Costa Rica. You've made it up. What is the initial thing where you're just like, you know what, this is going to be amazing?
Well, it was just a desire. I was feeling a call, something deep inside of myself, knowing that there had to be more to life.
Yes.
And I had no idea what it was going to look like. And, you know, the journey has been about 6 years now. It's pretty crazy to think about, but it's been like, I couldn't have planned anything. And the way I think about it, because I decided in basically January of 2018, I left June 26, 2018. So I spent all that spring selling my clothes, pretty much everything I owned, my car.
Dude.
And then really just...
That's like a real like detox, like from your life in general, right? You got rid of all of the little stones that you were carrying in your pockets.
That's right. Yeah, and as I was getting rid of things, there's all kinds of little tests, little funny tests. Almost, there was a guy that keyed my car, right? Had this for sale sign on it at a gym just right around this corner here. Dude keyed my car, almost killed him in the parking lot. But
wow.
I don't.
All right.
All these little things just kind of come up, but ultimately made it happen. Took that one-way flight to Costa Rica. No real plans of ever coming home, and really just went on a mission to figure out who I am, why I'm here. If what I always thought my entire life was to be about, firefighter, and I had done that, and it was not who I was anymore.
Yes.
Who am I? So I went on this big journey of self-discovery and traveled for essentially 10 months out of the country. We did 4 months in Costa Rica, 2.5 in Peru. Really cool because there's a lot of big cycles in my life, and I've lived multiple different lives, it feels like, and there's like 4 or 6 or 20 year cycles that continue to happen. And 6 years to the date of that first time I went to Peru and worked at that orphanage, I was back in that city that changed my life. And it was just a really beautiful, there was a beautiful, unbelievably beautiful sunset over the Pacific Ocean. It was just like, I'm doing something, I'm finding something, that there's something bigger happening here. Mm-hmm. And then went to Colombia for 2 months. That totally changed my life. And then traveled around Europe, got engaged in front of the Eiffel Tower with my wife, and just did the thing.
So how long have you been married now?
We got married in 2021. That engagement was in 2019.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And you have kids?
I have one daughter. She's amazing, 14 months old on Thursday, and then I have a son on the way.
All right. Well, congratulations. My blessings and my condolences. My daughter is about to turn 13, so you got your work cut out for you, buddy. But I think you're gonna make it, and like you're a really cool guy. Like, and just being able to look in the mirror and be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want something bigger for my life, and I'm willing to get rid of everything and start over.
Yeah.
And look at where it took you. Like, look at where you are now. Yeah, you've got a lot of really great experiences. Now you got a really cool family.
Yep.
Now you get to set a really cool example for your daughter. Now, what type of man is it that you would see fit to date your daughter?
I hadn't thought about that. You're a lot closer than I.
I think about that, and that's part of why the dinners exist and why the other events will exist and things like that, because I have to learn how to be the man that I would want my daughter to date, that I would want her to have in her life and take care of her, because there's going to come a point where dad just can't protect you anymore.
Yep.
So just a little quick tidbit, like one characteristic that you would want out of a man that would date your daughter.
Yeah. And I think that really came online when my daughter, like my whole life changed from this traveling to like, now I'm a father.
Yes.
And it really upped the ante on life and purpose and vision and all these sort of things. And the realization that no matter what, my daughter is very much so likely going to marry or fall in love with someone who's just like me.
Absolutely.
For better or for worse.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if there's one thing that I would say, it's just a desire to become the best version of themselves.
Absolutely.
It's working to serve something that's larger than themselves, and they're working to become better.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's very admirable. And like it covers a lot of facets in life, right? It's not limited to just one thing, like communication. I speak better. Oh, but how can we make it better? Like overall, how can you continue to grow? That's amazing. And it speaks a lot about who you are and the journey that you've been on. If there's one thing that you could tell a man out there that he should consider in his life that might potentially make a difference to get a positive outcome, what would it be?
Well, one thing would be, that really came strongly for me when I was making that decision to leave, was this idea of action is the greatest adversary of adversity. And so if someone's going through something, an experience in life they don't want to be in, it's ultimately up to that man to take responsibility and decide what comes next.
Yes.
And I think responsibility is something that's really important, this ownership, this awareness and desire to create something new. I think, especially as men, we're protectors, we're providers, but we're ultimately the creator of our life.
Absolutely.
We're 100% responsible for what is our current environment and what we want next if we want another level. And so I think there's just a lot of things within that is ultimately up to each individual man to make something happen.
I agree. Like, how would you define confidence?
The ability, the belief in self to handle a current situation.
In the best way possible, right?
In the best way possible.
All right, cool. All right, so now how would you go about creating confidence?
The only way to create confidence that I understand is to do things you don't want to do and to put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Bam. All right. So it's going to take action for us to create confidence. I like to say confidence is created through competency. The better we understand something, the more confident we're at it.
Yeah.
The only way to become more competent about things is by taking action. So I love your answer and the way you put it. If someone wanted to contact you or get a hold of you for anything that you do, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can contact me on Instagram or LinkedIn, action_Jesse on Instagram.
Okay.
My name's Jesse Simpson. You can connect with me on LinkedIn.
All right. Sweet. Yeah. So if you could help one person and whoever it would be that would be your ideal person, and you could help them doing whatever it is that you wanted to help them with, what would be that you would do, and what would be the outcome that they would get?
Well, what we do at Abundance Codes, my company, is we help solve the challenges associated with traditional funding for small business owners. And there's things that are happening in the world right now that are really important for us to pay attention to, that are what I believe restricting our freedoms. Mm-hmm. And I believe the best way to navigate that is to acquire assets, to create space, to create a legacy, and build wealth.
Okay.
So that's what I can provide, is we can use our funding to acquire assets, to start or scale a business. So if someone has a vision for their life, I believe it's their responsibility. The reason they have that vision is because it's their responsibility to bring that through. And there's powers that be that are trying to impose theirs upon us. Mm-hmm. So my request is for anybody with a vision, a business owner, someone who wants to do something in this world, the reality is you're going to need funding. And the beautiful part about what we provide specifically is you don't have to risk your own personal assets, your own credit. You can start or scale your business, scale your vision, put food on your family's table, leveraging the bank's credit, and build the vision, the heaven on earth that you have for your family.
All right, so you heard him. If you got a dream and what's stopping you, or what is stopping you right now from accomplishing that is financing or funding or support, Jesse right here is a guy that you should talk to. He's a man that can help facilitate the dreams that you're wanting to create. Dude, it's been a pleasure having you on here. I think that there's a lot of people out there that could learn a lot from your story. Not only did you come from the middle of nowhere, you went to the middle of nowhere somewhere else and survived dastardly situations, found out that things weren't necessarily told to you to be true in the mannerism that they were presented. So they framed a narrative for you that was very misleading, which destroyed your trust. But it's interesting how you didn't see it until you were trying to help other people. And I think it's admirable that you took the moment to take care of yourself, to go find yourself on your vision quest, to find out who you are and what you want to be remembered as. And you have taken action to create a lovely family and to continue to develop and build on who you are. It's an honor to have you on this podcast, to have you a part of my dinners and everything that I'm trying to create. And if anyone's out there that would love to get a hold of him, you should. Don't hesitate. Don't suffer any longer. This dude can help you. And we can help you on this podcast, because this is the Man Up and Own It show, where we are dedicated to helping the men out there going through situations in their life that are probably difficult, that probably create suffering. Watch the stories, find out how you can do something different. Reach out to these people. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that like button. Thank you.